Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. These are the words with which the Holy Quran starts. And I want to start by pointing out that Islam is the only religion whose holy book opens with a prayer of help from the Divine Being. The Old Testament starts with the story of creation, and the New Testament with Jesus' genealogy, etc., etc. So Muslims start with asking the Divine Being for help. But who is the Divine Being? And what do we call him, or what should we call him? My speech today is on the name Allah and how it is the only unique name given to the Divine Being. As we know, an entity can be recognized in two different ways. Firstly, by describing the entity or giving it an attributive name, and secondly, by giving it a personal name. If we use attributive names, then we have a problem in that it can lead to confusion, or it can be cumbersome and long. So, as an example, if you wanted to point out a person in a crowd, we could say, that tall man. But which one? There's more than one tall man. So we could say, that tall man with the black hair. But again, which one? And we could further go on and say, that tall man with the black hair who is clean shaven. That might be enough on that occasion to describe and point out that person. But what happens if, say, that man ends up dyeing his hair blonde, as I once did, or grows a long beard, for example? So descriptively, we can go on and on and on describing that man, but we're having to add more and more attributes to try and differentiate between that tall man that you're pointing out and anybody else. If someone said he was looking for Madrasa, he may be asked, which one? And you could reply, I'm looking for Madrasa Aziz. But again, you might ask, well, which Madrasa Aziz? In our own Jamaat, we have two Madrasa Azizes, and on countless occasions, there's been confusion about which Madrasa was being talked about. If it's still not clear, someone would have to say, I'm looking for Shahid Aziz's eldest son, Madrasa Aziz. And at that point, it becomes clear who you want to speak to or who you're looking for. So again, even with somebody's name, that can lead to a cumbersome, long discussion to clarify who you mean. So, can we do this with the Divine Being's name? Is giving an attributive name enough? One religion thinks so. The Zoroastrians, I think they're call the Divine Being an embodiment of all virtue. But what that fails to address is that he is also the creator. He is the hero of prayers, etc., etc. So just because you're good, it doesn't mean you can hear or answer people's prayers. The Holy Prophet, peace be upon him, was an embodiment of all virtue. But was he a divine being? Of course he wasn't. He was a human being. So, for these reasons, a personal, unique name is needed for the Divine Being, which encapsulates all his qualities. In Islam, the proper name of the Divine Being is Allah, for which we find no English equivalent, and we're forced to interpret the word as God. But Allah is the proper name of the Divine Being and is, at the same time, more definite in its application and more profound in its meaning than the term God. God in the English language is more often than not applied as a description to more than just the Divine Being. Allah has been the name of the Divine Being from ancient times, well before the time of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. His father was called Abdullah, which means the servant of Allah. So the name existed long before the Holy Prophet was born. And although people in Makkah worshipped many gods and gave them names, they did not name any of them Allah. Allah was reserved and used for the one divine being. And the name Allah has other qualities in that in grammatical form it is not masculine, it's not feminine, nor is it plural, etc. All other words for the divine being have these forms. For example, God, gods, goddesses, etc. The chapter of the Holy Quran called Surah Al-Ikhlas tells us that Allah is unique and He is incomparable, and that everyone depends on Him, whereas He depends on nobody. Chapter 112 of the Holy Quran goes, "Say, He, Allah, is one. Allah is He on whom all depend. He begets not, nor is He begotten, and none is like Him." So the divine being's name should reflect exactly that. His name should be unique as well, and it cannot have any other forms. The word Allah is unique in that it is a noun, but without a plural or feminine or any other forms. It uniquely and perfectly encompasses the uniques of the divine being and the fact that He is the embodiment of all virtue. But some people, especially native Arab speakers, claim that Allah is not a unique name, but in fact a grammatical error in how we are saying the name. The word for God in Arabic is Illah, and some people object and say that Allah is a mispronunciation of Al-Illah, or the God, as opposed to any other God. Now, the rules of Arabic grammar explain to us that if Al and Illah were combined, the combination would not be pronounced as Allah. And Arabs should know this, as it is their own language. When Al is combined with another noun, the pronunciation is governed by whether the noun starts with a sun letter or whether it starts with a moon letter. The Arabic word for sun is Shams. Now, if we combine Al and Shams, we pronounce it as Ash-Shams. Here, the A of the Al is dropped, and the A of Al is combined with the first letter of the noun. In this case, Shams. So the Arabic word for moon is Qamar, and if we combine that with Al, we pronounce it Al-Qamar. Now, if Alif of Allah is a moon letter, so that you cannot drop the Lam or L of Al and combine it with the first letter of the next word. So it would read Al-Illah, not Allah. As Alif is a moon letter, you will have to pronounce it as Al-Qamar. So you will say Al-Illah, and you couldn't say Allah. Now this tiny grammatical example I've just spelled out to you proves that Allah is not a combination of Al-Illah, but it's in fact a word in itself. So this argument that is put forward by people who try to claim that Allah is not a unique word is clearly a false argument. So, in conclusion, this is more than enough evidence that the name Allah is the only unique name of any word in any religion given to describe the personal name of the divine being. So if you ever needed evidence that Islam is the one true religion, this is compelling evidence that Islam is the final and perfect religion, a religion for all men and for all time, as it is the only religion which has been given the true name of the divine being. Now, I've only briefly really touched upon this subject of the name of Allah and how and why it is the only name for the divine being. The topic is so deep that we have published a 99-page book on the subject, which is entitled Allah, the Unique Name of God. I would encourage everybody to seek out the book and to read it. The book is by Maulana Abdul Haq Vidyarthi and revised by Salim Ahmed and Dr. Zahid Aziz. And you can download it or read it for free on our website, aaiil.org. You can just go in the search box and type in Allah, and it's one of the very first results that come up. So I would encourage everybody to go to the website and read that book and get a deeper understanding of how important something as simple as the name that we've been blessed with for the Divine Being is in our religion.